Hey, shalom, my gracious brothers and sisters. This brother Amos coming back to you again with another week of call to action, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I've been having the time of my life with these call to actions. You know, and those of you, even if it's just one person that's getting edified from this, that's it. I don't care about the thousands, because if I reach the one, they might end up reaching the thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. So I'm just here sowing a good seed for you all. Because look, I throw the seeds out there. Some going to fall on good ground and some going to fall on bad ground. But you know what? The words need to be said. Because guess what? My so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American brothers and sisters, you are God's chosen people. I don't know why that's hard to believe. You call yourself a king, you call yourself a queen. You're God's chosen people. You're God's chosen people. And I've been giving y'all principles and tangible information for y'all to hold on to. So just continue to hold on. Start putting it to use. Start building your families. Start self-examining yourself. Start praying. Start fasting. You know what I'm saying? I would even say this. Break out. Leave sex alone for 6 months. You know, you need to quit having sex before marriage anyway. But leave sex alone for 6 months. Leave the drugs. Leave the alcohol alone for 6 months. Your life will change. Now let's get into this regularly scheduled programming, or this call to action. Because listen, the purpose of these call to actions is not to be long-winded, but it's just to get y'all some tangible information that you can use right now. So now, with that being said, let's jump into this. As I said, I'm Brother Amos, and this call to action. And I'm grateful and I'm thankful that you all are listening and you all are watching. So now, what I really want to specifically deal with is the parent-child and school relationship. The parent-child and school relationship. Because it's very important, especially for our black neighborhoods, our black people. You know, here's the thing. One thing you got to understand is this. Parents, you have rights that you have never been told. Because a lot of times you have been given information and documentation that you have been, and I got to call it like it is, you've been lazy and you haven't read it. Or in the meetings, you haven't taken the time out because you're so frantic and you want to rush and you're so in your emotions that you don't allow the time to get these administrators to explain to you specifically what it is that you're signing. You know what I'm saying? Because let's say, for example, is this, and this is going to carry us a couple weeks now. This is going to carry us from here, and I'm gonna do this again, and I'm gonna expand it on to the next week. So just follow up with this, because the biggest thing that we have in our community, in our neighborhood, black people, we get diagnosed with mental disorders. You know, specifically ADHD, bipolar, and ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. And this is one book that we need to invest in. You all need to invest in. It's the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This is where all the psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, the APA, American Psychiatric Association. This is, quote unquote, this is the manual that they use to define the criteria in which that your children and all the mental diagnoses come from. So they use this book as a criteria to determine what diagnosis, whether you're an adult or a child, getting diagnosed with. You understand? So this book you can find on Amazon. It's about $135. It's worth it. You buy shoes, you go to the club, you go on vacations. It's worth it. The DSM-5 is out now. But you need to take this very seriously, parents, because our kids are being misdiagnosed in that time period, and then they're carrying them throughout their whole entire school career. And it's not that they're just getting diagnosed. They're getting misdiagnosed. Because when you're diagnosing, because for one, these diagnoses, they don't have CAT scans. They're only professional opinions. And 9 times out of 10, They're not meant with the specific criteria that needs to be said in the DSM. Now, for example, we all have had administrators, whether it's a close personal teacher or a school counselor or any administrator in that building, tell you or suggest or may make a suggestion that you need to go take your child to see someone because your child is exhibiting certain behaviors, they call it, or your child or they might even say, you see some tendencies or some bipolar, some ADHD. You know what that is? That is illegal. It's not just that they're doing it wrong. That is illegal against the law because the only people who are qualified to diagnose your child properly is a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist. Not your school administrator who's been doing it for 20 years. Not your school teacher who's been doing it for 20 years. Not your counselor who's been doing it for 20 years. If they don't have those specific licensures, they cannot even talk about it or even suggest it. And even still, when you are going to get this exam or get this, because sometimes these laws are set up where if you don't go get your child a medical evaluation, you can get in trouble as a parent. So even though they give you a medical evaluation and they say, yeah, your kid is exhibiting bipolar or ADHD, you're entitled as your rights as parents to get a second opinion or a third opinion. And guess what? Don't just settle for a white doctor because we know what our kids will do. Because mind you, let's say, for example, the highest rate of the highest diagnosis that we are as black people are being diagnosed with is what? ADHD. Therefore, guess what? They say your child is ADHD based on a specific criteria. However, the criteria needs to be met where it needs to be in the school, it needs to be in the community, and it needs to be and at home. There's specific criteria in which it needs to be numerous settings, not just in one specific classroom. Because so let's say, for example, your child is in school. He's sitting in the seats. He's moving around. He's talking. He's rambling his mouth at school. But then guess what? That same parent could take that same child, leave him at home, put that TV on. That kid will sit there all day, watch his show. You can, as a parent, you can leave out the house and come back. Guarantee that kid is still sitting there. So what does that tell you? That it's not just that ADHD. It's not just a mental diagnosis. It's something a lot deeper. And this is where you got to evaluate those teachers, not on the aspect because as a parent, you just bumping your gums thinking that your child is exempt from being misbehaved. No, but you just need to understand your rights as parents. You understand? You really need to just evolve yourselves into understanding, to be impatient enough, because when it comes to your children, I've worked with hundreds of families, over my 12 plus year career. And the biggest thing that I've seen is a lot of misdiagnoses, a lot of signatures being on paper that they don't know what they sign. And it's saddening and it's frustrating. So when you're dealing with this mental diagnosis and you're dealing with your teachers, your kids' teachers, and they're asking you or they're talking to you about, they're talking to you about situations about your child and your behaviors, do not go there alone. Go there with a family friend. Go there with a person that you trust, specifically 2 to 3 people. And guess what? Don't feel rushed. If they say, well, we need you to come in tomorrow. No. If it's not working on your schedule, you use it on your schedule. Don't feel pressure. By law and by rights, you are entitled to these. That's why it's important to also read your school handbook from the school district. If you don't have one, call your school district. Tell them to email it over to you. Fax it. Do something. Get a hard copy and actually read that throughout your time. Because these are the situations that we deal with as a community. Because your child gets diagnosed with ADHD, then he gets diagnosed with bipolar, he gets diagnosed with ODD, and it's even now autism is a big thing that's coming through. And then they get on pills, and then guess what? They get on these pills, right, for one disorder. Then they take another pill for one disorder. Then they got to take a pill to counteract the side effects of those other pills. So then guess what? Your child is not just behaving. Your child is drugged up. Your child is becoming a junkie now. Okay? Because, so you got to just understand the evaluation process. So when you're in these conversations with these teachers, if they dare to ever cross a line to tell you about your child being misdiagnosed with anything or any suggestion, guess what? It's illegal. Tell them it's illegal. They're not qualified to even make any suggestion. So refrain from speaking that to you and about your child. And if you need to take a step further and call the school district, do it. If you need to take a step further and call the APA, do it. But stop allowing things that just happen because your kid's life is at stake. Because guess what? A lot of times, so for example, let's show you how this money machine works. For example, this is why it's important to keep your kid from being diagnosed as much as possible. It doesn't mean you're denying them. Let's listen up. It doesn't mean you're denying them proper health care, but you're taking your steps as your rights as a parent and as a citizen of this United States of America. So let's say, for example, this is how the money goes. For a general education, that means a general education student. That means a student that's in all regular classes, no special ed classes. General ed student. Let's say, for example, the school district gets paid $15,000, or let's say $12,000 for each student for a general ed student. Now, your kid be deemed special ed because for a diagnosis, your kid can be deemed special ed, where they're in different resource classes, where they're getting pull-out classes and things of that nature, where they end up having IEPs. That becomes a special ed kid, in which the amount that kid is going to be bringing in for the school district for each kid. Let's say general education is 12. That kid is going to be bringing in about $22,000. That's how the gap is. So you understanding capitalism and the things that take place about money. What would the school district prefer? Because mind you, therapists and psychologists, they get paid to diagnose your kid. So when you go see them, you could be talking about things that happen. You're going to get diagnosed. Because then that's how they got to work. They can't work with you if you're not diagnosed. So, yeah, people do it in good faith. However, but you still need to understand that you need a second and third opinion and make sure they got it correct. Because the last thing you need is a misdiagnosis, which your child end up taking pills for the wrong thing. Then you got to correct it later on. Then your child has other issues that's going on. So going back to that, general education is $12,000 and special ed is about $22,000. You see the gap difference? So you need to understand that it's a very serious matter, because that amount of money that kid your special ed kid is bringing in is supposed to provide resources to help them get through school. But Lord knows that, guess what? What resources are available when you have a kid? It's not like, so let's say, for example, IEPs, individual IEPs, individual education plans, IEPs. Your kid says, your individual, this is why it's kind of difficult for teachers too. Your child is in there, and a teacher is working with a child who has about 12 to 13 kids in a room classroom for the 30. And each kid has specific, strenuous, strong IEP plans where they got to get pullouts. They got to get things read to them. They got to get things, things got to get double checked. They got to have a specific test and all this. That one teacher is in there by herself. So by law, these things was written on that paper and needs to be done. As said on that paper. So you tell me, how is that one teacher going to be able to cover those 12 students? And about 5 of them are very hard structured IEPs. It's impossible. So that's illegal right there. Because these are federal dollars that's given to the school districts to cater for your specific special ed child. So that's why we got to understand what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a beast. And it's not to point the finger specifically at the teachers. It's not to point specifically at the school district. It's really harping on you parents to really get into the game of your child's life. Stop allowing this stuff to happen. I'm tired of it. You acting foolish. You're hip to all what's going on with the rappers' lives, the shootings in your communities that you know, in the communities, you know who did this, who did that. You're a detective with that, but you're not a detective with your child. And your child is getting railroaded, then you get a couple calls that now they about to expel your child because guess what? They about to send your child to a behavior school because your child has an IEP. That they're able to get your child an IEP, a behavior IEP, to determine the type of treatment that your child is going to be dealt with behaviorally. And you coming in there as a parent, all emotional, always talking. Just as a parent, this is from our parents. Parents, one thing you got to do is shut up and stop talking so much when you're at these meetings. The teachers, and no one needs to know your personal life. They don't need to know how you grew up. They don't need to know that you went through a divorce. They don't need to know that you struggled as a kid, that you was a bad kid, because all they're doing in their minds, taking notes and connecting the dots. Because logically, it's like, damn, you went through that? I see why your kid is struggling. So your kid has a diagnosis. So they already calculating the things already. I've been in these meetings on both sides. When I stood up for parents, against the school district, against the teachers, against specific principals, and I've been on the other side in the meetings listening. And guess what? A lot of times, what do you see? You're getting called into a meeting as a parent, and you got 6 other people in there meeting with you. But only one's talking, and the rest of them, yeah, we're just here for support, just listening. They give you, oh, well, this is a resource. This is the resource teacher. This is our behavior specialist. This is our counselor. This is our therapist. You know, this is the principal, and this is the main teacher talking. And the main teacher talking. Why you need all them people in there in the first place? So what you do when you're in those meetings, that's why you bring 2 or 3 people, because as a parent, sometimes you get emotional. So you need that 2 or 3 people that's civil and that's sober-minded to be able to interject and know what's going on. So you enter into the meeting. You know, you ask for a rundown of what the meeting's detailed is going to be, what the meeting is going to be about, step by step. You get an estimation of how long the meeting is going to be. Man, you're supposed to do this all before you get to the meeting. So let's say, for example, let's start there. They call you. They tell you all this stuff. Okay, you say, okay, well, can you please provide this information that you would like to meet with me, that the time we will meet, the topics that will be covered, and the estimated time that we will be leaving. Can you send that to me in the email? That's what you do, because you want a paper trail. You don't want to play games with this. Okay, you got your paper trail. And then guess what? You don't need to tell them that you're bringing 2, 3. You don't need to tell them that you're bringing anybody with you. It's your right. You're not on trial. This ain't court. So don't treat it like court. This is free. Freedom. So you can bring 2, 3, 4, 5 people in there, but only one person talks. Everybody got their specific command, because you don't need too many people talking. And if you as a parent, you know, you initiate, you always in control and engaging, but you have that second person with you out of those 2 or 3 people at least. That second person with you to be able to navigate some things for you. When you get too emotional, to be able to, okay, calm down. I'll take it over. Just listen for me. And then they end up talking. So when you get to the meeting, you take your time. Set aside 3 hours when you go to these meetings, because you really want to dive in. So you got 6 teachers, you know, you're the counselor. Okay, so man, why are you here? What is your duties, or what is going to be your assignment with my child with this? And then you write it down. Then boom, other person, you write it down, their title, their name, their experience. Grill them. This is your child online. This is your future. This is your life. Do that. Don't be afraid. So then you continue on. And as you're talking, you know, don't be emotional. Don't go on about your family history. And honestly, it's like this. Even if you are divorced, or even if your child, the other parent ain't involved, they don't need to know that. You don't even need to bring it up. They actually, yeah, they at work. If they say, well, they always at work, you're out of line. They're out of line for that. Because if they know that you're a single parent, especially women, they'll take advantage of you. They'll try to do things. They'll try to add services. They try to act like, oh yeah, you know, we're going to talk like this. We're going to be cool. No, they're not. They're not. Don't fall for it. I'm telling you, don't fall for it. So you're in the meeting, and after the meeting, well, even before the meeting, you let them know that you would like this email to you as an email summary by tomorrow. And guess what? You can even take it a step further to pull out your phone and have it recorded while you're talking. You're not breaking no law. There's nowhere in the handbook where it says you can't record information. It's because if they say, well, we don't want to record it, well, I do for my records. And if we have a problem with that, show me where in your policy, in your handbook, that I can't record this. I can't record this meeting. Because I don't want it off the record. And by the way, email me. So can we have somebody? I'm gonna take my notes, but I will also like for you, all of you, to take notes and to have a point person. So by noon tomorrow, I would like an email summary of the points that we hit on for the meeting, so we can make sure that we're on the same page moving forward. That's how you deal with them. And then you talking to the teachers, and then you call the teachers every Friday, and you tell the teachers that you would like a weekly report of what your child done every Friday. So what if they're, oh no, I don't care about them other 30 kids. This is my child. That's what I want. If you can't handle the job, remove yourself. You always CC the principal. You can even CC the superintendent. But that's how you do it. It's not giving them hell. It's not overworking them. It's you checking in better. So if something does come up, okay, you email me on every Friday. Why didn't you tell me 2 weeks ago that this happened? And you email me every Friday as I asked. Why did you tell me my child was having these issues? You could have told me that in your email. Why are you telling me now? See, that's how you do it. Because we keep receipts with our items. You keep receipts for records. You got to keep records, okay? But go ahead and get that DSM-V and listen. Take your time in these meetings. Take your time, because first and foremost, your child should not be diagnosed in elementary school at all. Their psychology says the age of reason is 7. That means the child comes to understanding at 7. I've seen kids diagnosed before 7. How is that possible? So we got to understand. We got to understand, family. So listen, this brother Amas, this is called an action. I wanted to engage this with y'all because this is a topic that's very serious as school is starting. And I want to ensure that y'all have enough tools, you have enough resources for you. It's called the DSM-V. You can look that up on Amazon. Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. We're on the 5th edition. There's a lot of, you got to check the criteria so you can know, you can have these conversations, you can have these discussions. Because it's not sometimes, who you know is what you know. And you got to know what you're talking about. No emotions. With that, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, shalom.